Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Christy Funk, and I will be your host for this NASA Startup Feature Series webinar. I'm really excited to welcome you all here, and I really hope that you enjoy hearing from one of NASA's technology-based startups. I'm the manager of the Tech Transfer T2X program, where we engage in partnerships and projects to help accelerate commercialization of NASA technologies and launch startups. And the Startup NASA series is one way to learn from those who have participated in some of our programs. Today's feature company got their start through the NASA FedTech Startup Studio held last year. And we continue to hold these presentations monthly and invite you to attend our next one on June 16th. Also, please visit NASA's Tech Transfer website for more information on our programs and offerings, including information on how to license NASA technology. So before we dive in, I'd like to point out that your microphones will be muted throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. It's located in the lower right corner of your screen, and we will answer them during the Q&A session at the end. So our featured presentation today is from the Smart Tire Company. And this company is developing the first advanced airless tire for use on Earth using NASA's shape memory alloy radial technology. Smart Tire is reimagining the wheel by reinventing the tire. The co-founders of Smart Tire are Brian Yenny and Earl Cole, and they will be our presenters today. Earl is the co-founder and CEO of Smart Tire Company, and throughout his academic career, Earl has studied business, entrepreneurship, and social innovation. He's worked at major media companies like Disney, Sony, and Comcast, and has worked on projects with Google, Starbucks, Walgreens, and Honda. He's also the founder of a global nonprofit organization that supports children and their families dealing with a rare bone disease. But he is now focused on this opportunity to grow the Smart Tire Company into the multi-billion-dollar company that he and his co-founder Brian believe it can become. And if you recognize Earl's name or his image, it may be because he is the first ever unanimous winner of the long-running TV series Survivor Fiji. Brian Yenny is the co-founder and CTO of the Smart Tire Company. Brian is a former National Merit Scholar, and he attended Dartmouth College before joining his first startup at the early age of 19. He co-founded an eco-friendly online children's virtual world company in 2005 and has since worked in leadership roles at a series of VC-backed early-stage companies, from education to gaming, manufacturing, and blockchain. And most recently, he was part of the core engineering team for the world's #1 decentralized cryptocurrency exchange, IDEX. And like Earl, he has a passion for mission-driven projects with environmental, education, or global economic impact. So I'd like to welcome Brian and Earl to deliver their presentation at this time. So I will turn it over to you guys.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Christy, for the wonderful intro. Very happy to be here. Looking forward to sharing a little bit about the Smart Tire Company and our story over the past year or so. Thanks to NASA for hosting this event, and look forward to answering some questions afterwards as well. Just a short note before I start, we do have a website at smarttirecompany.com if anything doesn't get answered here, or you just want to reach out and learn more. We do respond to everything that comes in from the website. So thank you everyone for attending, and yeah, let's talk tires. So we are the Smart Tire Company, and we make the world's first high-performance airless tire. So today I want to talk a little bit about our journey, starting with our introduction to NASA, time we spent working through the NASA Startup Studio with FedTech, a path we took through stealth mode as a company, preparing for what became a soft launch this spring, and kind of what's next for us as we move into growth phase and go to market in the coming year. So when we first encountered this opportunity, Earl and I knew each other, and we had this opportunity to work with NASA. Something that immediately came to mind when we looked at this technology, which was a tire technology from the Rover program. At first blush, it's extremely cool. I think we all love these missions and can get behind some of the amazing things that happen. But how do you really evaluate a technology that is built and intended for a mission on Mars? And so this is a cool image of Fetch Rover, and I want to show it off a little bit because this is where we get excited. We see these cool tires, see them rolling around on Mars. It's got this interesting profile, this nice soft tire going over Martian terrain, doing some amazing science. And it really looks amazing. But how do we get this back on Earth, and what can it do for us? So when Earl and I decided to join the FedTech NASA Startup Studio, the first and the obvious question is, okay, this is some incredible technology, but is it really a business? So we started asking a lot of questions. Is the technology innovative? I think that's probably the easiest thing here. Pretty much anything available from NASA is very high tech, very advanced. So pretty easy win there. Does it add value? What is the value proposition for these tires? So on Martian terrain, we're trying to withstand really extreme temperatures. We need extreme low maintenance. We can't have a flat tire, 50 million miles away from Earth. But what exactly is the value proposition here? Is the technology market ready? So the benefits might be great, but how close is this to actually being ready? Especially as a new business, when we're talking about a startup company, it's just not going to work if there's a 5-year path to your first product. It's really hard to get traction if you can't bring something to market a little bit quicker. Is this something that's in demand? Many years again in early stage startups, sometimes you have something cool, sometimes you think everyone's going to want it. But what is the actual demand for this? What is the market? Is it big enough to sustain the investment in the company? Long story short, can I actually make money at this? What is the capital required? A lot of small businesses start out in, very narrow applications. In the startup space, you see a ton of digital products. One of the reasons for that is that the startup costs are a lot lower if you're writing an app for the App Store than if you're building expensive hardware. Humans required. So, who are the people that can work with this technology? NASA has some of the best scientists in the world, and, they work in these Mars rover programs and similar projects. But who out there, including us, is capable of moving this technology forward for commercial purposes? Is the company investable? Is this something I can raise money for in order to bring it to market? Again, how long is it going to take? And, is it consumer friendly? Is this something where I can get the word out and I can drum up some interest? So we had a lot of questions going in, this was part of the process at the NASA Startup Studio and something we started to hone in on. So when we first got involved with the project, of course, the first thing we did is start reading patents. So you start to get to know the technology a little bit in a project like this. Innovation, again, is a given. Not every patent is necessarily innovative. Maybe they should be. But clearly, the science behind this, when we're talking about shape memory alloys and new advanced materials, and some very unique constructs coming out of NASA. There was no question there. Does it solve some pain points? Yes. So, an airless tire with low maintenance, potential safety benefits, performance benefits, it looked promising. Some prototypes existed. So when I say this, I mean beyond the Rover program. NASA had done some work. They had done a radial tire that they put on a Jeep. And so a little bit of that had been proven out in terms of the, proof of concept for terrestrial applications. And so the big things that we really had to deal with ultimately to see if this was viable, cost was one. We're using advanced materials to buy tires. Tires aren't always the most expensive items. People are used to spending a certain amount of money on tires. Treads, these are metal tires. If you look at the Rover renderings, they're very, very cool looking. But if you can imagine metal rolling down the road, bad things happen. So we needed to figure out what the next step was there. Performance, a lot of question marks. A lot of the testing, again, is for Mars applications. How is this going to perform on a road here on Earth? Again, expertise, can we hire the right people for our company? Manufacturing, how are we going to make these things? So gave us a ton to think about, but it started to crystallize for us pretty quickly as we started to look deeper into the technology. And, what started to emerge were some really top level, incredible properties for these tires. So, cool photo here of one of the tires showing just how elastic these are. And as we started to learn about shape memory alloys, we had some of these pretty phenomenal statistics in terms of recoverable strain of the tires. And so, in layman's terms, having this great elasticity and then regaining its original shape. We also found that the tires were pretty strong. So part of the reason that this technology exists for NASA missions is that rovers keep getting bigger and bigger. They get heavier. And you can imagine all the designs we have on the future for anything up to manned missions to Mars. We want to take bigger and bigger vehicles to other planets. And so while these were in maybe a lower range initially for rovers, the prototype that was done on a Jeep started to get us where we wanted to be. And then we actually saw the potential at a technological level to take these up to really high loads. And here's if you haven't seen it, here's a great photo of the radial tire prototype. So we saw a lot of potential, kind of from the top down of what these could do. We'd seen a certain prototype that gives you ideas about how this might go on a car or a truck. So I'm going to throw in the obligatory Elon Musk quote here. Apologies to anyone who's been losing any Bitcoin money this week due to a certain person's tweeting. But I think he calls out something here that is really important to us and important to our business, which is to not make too many analogies and assumptions about what a tire can be. It's a great proof of concept that we can build a radial tire that looks like an ordinary tire, that we can measure some of these things against existing products in terms of what the load is or what the deflection is in the tire. But really, starting a new business, what we want to do is go back to first principles and look at the capabilities and what we can actually make. So kind of wrapping up all of that here, we're working with a great technology. It's not a product yet, and it's not a business yet, but it definitely could be. And we really saw, a ton of potential here. So this is us. So Earl and I have been working together for a few years now. We actually originally met through AngelList, working on other startups, and came together just through some common interests and some complementary skills. Um, so when we kind of determined this was a great technology, and like I said, we thought it could be a product, and we thought it could maybe even be a business. The obvious question is, are we the right people to do it? So, Earl and I bring a few things to the table from our startup experience. We're both very mission driven. So, in terms of our goals for the company and where we'd like to see this technology go, we both have a pretty long history working with nonprofits and mission driven companies. So that's something we always wanted to be a part of the Smart Tire Company if we could find that lane. We're both seasoned entrepreneurs. We've been doing early stage companies for 15, 20 years. And the reason I mention that is not to call it a resume so much as to say, I think people sometimes go into licensing technologies thinking it's going to be easier than making something themselves. I would say it's a great opportunity, but it's actually requires a lot of business experience to figure out how to take an existing technology and bootstrap a company around it. It was important to us that we had on our executive team product and marketing skills, a lot of research skills. We're going to need to learn the technology. We're going to need to raise capital, build a team, and a little bit of a startup cliche here, but if the shoe fits, we're going to need a lot of persistence and a lot of patience to bring something this big to market. So given all that, we thought we might be up for the job, and we dove in. Last summer in the NASA Startup Studio program, we started to dive into a lot of the research, and it was actually August of last year we decided to form a company. So I just want to call out the last bullet on that slide, which is patience. Maybe something you don't hear all the time. People talk about persistence and the grind of a new company. But something that was important to us was having some patience. We felt there was a huge opportunity here, and that timing was going to be really important, and getting to a certain phase of the business before we really showed our cards and put ourselves out there. So one of the first things we did after we formed the company is we went straight into stealth mode. And what happens when you go into stealth mode and you work really hard and nobody knows about it is that you become an overnight success. So you could say, Earl and I have been in a garage band for a while now, and we just hit it big in March. We haven't really made it big yet, but we did get quite a bit of attention when we went public in March. We were featured in quite a few tech magazines. TechCrunch, Design Boom, Mashable. Y'all can read the pictures. But when we came out on March 15th, which was our soft launch date, we got an awful lot of interest, fielding emails 24/7 for a few days there, and looked lucky, looked overnight, totally wasn't. So how did that happen? So to step back and give a little bit of context here, while we had kind of pulled back and gone into stealth mode, we found a couple of things that we felt were the keys to us going from this wide and broad technology opportunity to the place where we could launch a company and the messaging would be right and the opportunity would be right. So the first thing we discovered when looking at the opportunity for a smart tire company was that we really wanted to go after the two-wheel market. And it was for a couple of reasons. One is that we really needed to carve something out that we could build bottom up. Looking at global tire industry, it's easy to see big numbers and dollar signs and potential, but we really needed to, forgive the pun, but we really needed to pick a lane here. So we found something interesting, which is that the two-wheel market is a pretty significant portion of the global tire market. When you think about all of the segments for tires, from automotive to trucking, you get into agriculture, construction, on and on and on. Two-wheel market's around 9% of the market right now. And what we really like about it are two things. One, it's growing faster than any other segment we could find. If you've been in one of the cities hit by the e-scooter rage or bike shares, you've seen some bird scooters maybe hanging from trees or something like that. Or if you even look at some of the initiatives internationally, you look at ride shares in Asia and things like that. The two-wheel market is really something we believe in, and something we felt that we could bring to market a little more quickly. The other thing that kind of tied this all together for us and really helped us feel like this was a passion project is that, this can really be a clean technology. And, the more we dug into the tire industry, the dirtier it looked, to be quite frank. Some of the kind of eye-popping stats, annually there are about 50 billion pounds of tire waste produced every year. So you figure, 6-7 pounds per human being on Earth every year is going into tire waste. If you've ever seen pictures like this or had the misfortune of visiting a tire dump in person or seeing a tire fire, they're pretty horrific. Efforts have been made to recycle. Certainly, there are some playgrounds and park benches and other things where rubber is recycled, but it's really a big problem. You can go on and on. A lot of the inputs are pretty negative in terms of petroleum and carbon black. And one that really shocked me, that's not on this slide, but kind of bowled me over, is the effect on ocean microplastics. So we discovered that although maybe you picture Walmart shopping bags and soda cans and things like that littering the ocean, actually 20 to 30% of the microplastics in the ocean come from basically from tire wear that runs off and is fed into our waterways. So something that really excited us about this project and we thought was going to be a big part of the narrative and the mission for the Smart Tire Company was building a cleaner tire. We do still use, or we will be using rubber treads, so it's not something that we're going to eliminate 100%, but by producing a tire with a longer life, something that lasts as long as your vehicle potentially, there's just a lot of avenues here for drastically reducing waste. So we're looking at using less rubber inputs. We're looking at using, again, different materials and, trying to holistically solve this issue of both the waste streams, the microplastics, and the dirty manufacturing process. So where does this all land us? As a startup company, what we need is a product. So we didn't want to just be a research company. We didn't want to be a concept. We wanted to come to market with a tangible product. Something that was really important to us was that we put this technology in the hands of ordinary people. We can talk all day about everybody's favorite subjects of recoverable strain and tire physics, but in the end of the day, we thought these materials are just so incredible that the way people are going to understand them is to find a go-to-market where we can put them in people's hands and they can see the potential of this technology and really unlock the awareness for future products. So our beachhead products for the Smart Tire Company we call METL. It is a bicycle tire, which we announced in March. It's made from the same nickel titanium alloys as the NASA technology, but is a new construct for bicycles. So the reason we picked this product, as far as consumer products go, the cycling market is a very attractive segment for us. A lot of cycling enthusiasts who are also technology enthusiasts. Margins are pretty good, especially in the high-end cycling market. And, it has a cool factor. We definitely wanted to build a brand around this. Um, we do think that it will deliver on the eco-friendly aspects. And, frankly, it addresses one of the most basic pain points for cycling, which is a cool product that doesn't get flat. If you can pull that off for your average cyclist, it's something that's really attractive. So it's also something that we feel we can make and manufacture in the short term and bring it to market. And it's a place where we're able to really add our secret sauce here. So we've made quite a bit of progress in terms of the constructs we're using for the tires. We've gotten into some interesting prototyping with the treads and the full product integration here, and lots of great new IP coming out of that. Also, as part of our soft launch, we wanted to bring some credibility to the brand. The NASA connection, of course, is fantastic for anyone that does work with the agency. Gives a lot of credibility to the technology. But if we're going to sell a tire to cyclists, we definitely want to have a bicycle manufacturer on board. We wanted to work with a micro-mobility company. So we partnered at the R&D phase with both Felt Bicycles, which is out here in Southern California, where Earl and I are currently located. They're best known for their carbon bikes and triathlon models and really high performance stuff. I believe they have a wind tunnel down here for their own testing facilities. So really great high tech partner for us. And also with Spin Mobility. So Spin, if you're not familiar, runs a micro mobility fleet similar to Bird or Lime. They do these electric kick scooter ride shares around the country and internationally. Also e-bike shares. So working with both of these partners closely on requirements and making sure we bring a great product to market. So a bit of announcement that I thought I would make special for this group that we'll be announcing publicly soon is that we are opening our first headquarters in Cleveland, Ohio. So this technology is out of the NASA Glenn laboratory in Cleveland. Of course, Cleveland is the epicenter of the tire industry as well. So it only makes sense for us to set our roots there. So we'll be opening this summer our official HQ, which will also be an innovation lab for our company. We have raised an undisclosed amount of seed funding that makes this possible and is going to allow us to bring our metal bicycle tire to market next year. So hoping to open HQ next month, launching the metal brand, as I said, next year. So what's next for Smart Tire Company? We've had a pretty exciting ride so far. We've only been out in the public view for a couple months now, but we've been hard at this for almost a year. We're very focused on our in-house research and development. We're getting pretty close and feeling good about our bicycle tire launch for next year, but also, adding a lot of secret sauce to the technology here, bringing the eco-friendly aspects into this, working with our mobility partners to get all the performance metrics that we want, price points for going to market to make sure we've balanced the need for something that people are going to want to buy, and that we've also really narrowed down the segments even within cycling industry. You can imagine there are a lot of different models of bikes and requirements out there. So we're full speed ahead on the METL brand. It's been really well received. Have a pretty hefty waiting list for the tires. We've signed up over 5,000 people to our waiting list off of our website. Continue to work on new constructs for the technology, building off of the original NASA inventions to get new and interesting properties out of the structural tire. Like many startups, we'll be working on cost reduction, bringing down our costs, bringing down the final cost of the product. We think we have some really good paths there and some major tranches to cut costs maybe by 20–30% this year. And then over the next few years, we see some really large opportunities to take another big, maybe 50–70% chunk out of that, which will really broaden our market. We're focused on some co-development deals that we're negotiating right now with some private companies. Hope to have some announcements for those things later in the year. But will really help us come to scale to have the right partners that want to bring this to market into their own segments. Really looking forward to creating some jobs in Ohio. It's also been one of our goals from the beginning is to have a made in the USA product, something that can be manufactured here, bring some jobs back to the Rust Belt and really show off American technology, straight out of the NASA labs to, blue collar jobs and into American consumer hands. Really means a lot to us. We have a very important goal expressed to us by one of the inventors that we will definitely need to drive at least one tire over a landmine. I promised I would include that in our presentation. One of our next steps is to continue working with NASA as well. With all the pieces that we've set up with partners and our own capital and capabilities, NASA is still the hub for a lot of the science. There's nobody better in the world to continue to help us develop some of these materials and some of this platform. So we will be working directly with NASA under a Space Act agreement for the foreseeable. And that's about where we're at today. I think I will wrap it up here. Really want to thank everyone for attending and would love to dive into some Q&A about the technology or the company or anything else that's on people's minds.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Fantastic job and congrats on your overnight success that I'm sure was a lot of hard work and on your headquarters location that I didn't know about until today. So how about that? Congratulations.
Thank you.
There are a number of questions that have been submitted, so I'm just going to start firing away for you. Hey, Earl. Okay, so first one. I'm curious about rolling resistance. Modern off-road tires have advanced in the last decades. Newer tires now can maintain good performance characteristics with larger widths. I asked from an off-road touring perspective. And on that same note, another person did ask if there is a reduction in rolling resistance. So can you all comment on the rolling resistance?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I would point out a couple of things. Kind of our official line at this point is that, our goal is an airless tire with as close to possible as performance of a pneumatic. I think that's a little bit modest on our part. There's some very interesting properties of these materials. So when I talk about, first principles thinking here, we fundamentally get a couple of things. One is that you're never going to worry about tire pressure. So whatever the resistance is, you're not going to lose it from underinflation. The other thing is that we just have, we basically have a nonlinear relationship between deflection and load. So when we design these structures, we have a lot of opportunities to do creative things in terms of footprint versus rolling resistance. So we're not claiming better rolling resistance yet. We're more claiming something comparable to pneumatic with some very different characteristics, and also just in a practical sense as opposed to a theoretical one, it has a lot of advantages.
Great, thank you. Okay, next question. Can you comment on what using superelastic material can do to the design of the entire wheel itself? For example, the tire, the rim, the spoke, etc.
Interesting question. The superelastic materials, as Brian pointed out, you really have to rethink everything because we're so used to just comparing, what's been done before. So using superelastic properties of nitinol, which is the material, like you really have to just rethink design in general. So naturally, of course, we can retrofit it in different types of ways, but the overall goal is to eventually get to the point to where tires might be a permanent fixture on a vehicle based on this type of material. So yeah, so you really just have to rethink everything. Like we're really starting from building from the ground up, basically. So that is what this type of material will allow us to do. Just totally rethink, redesign the way tires and wheels are constructed.
Thanks, Earl. Are materials like graphene being used for abrasion resistance?
We're not using any graphene. I know that's normally used in a lot of bike tires. I think like Vitoria, I think they're called, that makes bike tires. They use a lot of that. It's a carbon-based material that makes it strong. We're not using anything like that because we don't have to, because we are using nitinol, which is a completely different thing. It has strong properties, but unlike graphene, it's going to be very, very flexible with an incredible recovery strength. So it's just going to be a entirely different product with different materials. Graphene is cool though, but we think this is going to be better in the long run.
All right, great, thank you. Beyond the aspects of pneumatic inflation, how are the performance of the tires compared to rubber tires in terms of grip?
I know there's a lot of pictures out there of our prototype one that doesn't show that this will actually be encased in rubber, so there won't be metal on the road. We don't want to do that and spark up the road like that. So we are in the process of testing on what type of material we might coat it with or encase it with, whether it's a rubber. There's actually some things we're going to be experimenting with, which will be a rubber kind of polyurethane type of blend. Something brand new, something that could be proprietary for us. So it will definitely give you the grip and everything needed for a normal tire, but we'll just have some super properties that will include the exoskeleton of it, the nitinol. And Brian, you can touch on that too if you want, because we get this question a lot.
Yeah, the only thing I would add there, one of the interesting properties is that in a lot of applications, we can get a wider or flatter footprint with some of the same performance characteristics. So if you're talking about traction in places where that's critical, you can imagine having the benefit of the tread and also being able to go with a little bit of a flatter footprint so you have more surface area. So we think, again, it's one of those places where kind of step one for us is matching some of the performance of other products while bringing new capabilities. But we're optimistic we could even, go further with it.
Okay, I think you might have just answered this in your last discussion, but how did you address the wear of metal on the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
There will not be metal on the
Metal
road.
on the road.
That is for Mars only, where the metal will actually touch the ground.
Okay. What will be your biggest hurdle in getting this to market?
Oh gosh, is that a trick question for a startup? There's going to be plenty of hurdles and challenges when you're trying to disrupt an entire industry on how things have been done for the past 100 years. There's obviously going to be some pushback and some challenges. There aren't even systems in place yet to properly do this. So we have to do a lot of behind the scenes work and a lot of partnerships and, work on our supply chain. So we expect challenges, but, we're assuming that our experience and our hard work and effort is going to help it all come to fruition, being the pioneers of something brand new to an industry, a legacy industry, basically. So Yeah, we expect the challenges, but we're ready for it for sure.
Okay, take a deep breath, guys. There's a lot of questions coming through for you.
Hey, bring
Um,
them. We'll take it. Come on, let's go.
all right, how do you plan on solving the challenges of reducing the material and labor costs of these tires for mass market?
That's pretty common stuff, with any startup. We're in the R&D phase right now, so I want to make sure we're clear. We're not about to go to market right this second. And to what Brian said in his presentation, we're going for the 2.0 market first, initially being our the bicycle. So lower barriers to entry, high margins. So we just have to build everything from the ground up. So, gosh, I mean, there's so many things I can say to address that particular question. Brian, you can step in. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah,
I'm actually
I'll
reading some of the questions at the same time. Like, oh, I can answer that. So go ahead.
yeah, I would just add, if I had to bullet a few things on that, obviously cost and availability have been on our mind since pretty much day one. So I can't dive too much into the specifics of what we're trying to do. A little secretive on our part, but I would just bullet, real high level, obvious things. We're trying to use less material. Nitinol's, pretty incredible material, and you can sometimes get away with using less if you do it right. We're looking at the raw material cost. There's people that the supply chain for nitinol is not mature for what we want to do, but it could be. So I think I kind of alluded to this a little bit in terms of big tranches for cost and for volume, and we'll be doing a few of those in parallel. I think it'll be an ongoing thing over the next few years, and that's why we're starting with certain markets that we think we can handle, but we also see a roadmap to the mass volume. It's just going to take a bit. It's going to take a minute.
Yeah, and we do apologize for some of the vagueness, but there is some confidential things that we just can't talk about just yet. But we'd love to, but we can't just yet.
Well, that's understandable. If any questions touch on that, feel free to skip them, and we'll keep moving on to others.
Okay.
So, how comfortable would a rider be on a bicycle using smart tires compared to a ride on the rubber bicycle tires used today?
I missed that question. Uh,
How comfortable would somebody be riding on a bike with the metal tires versus riding on a bike with regular rubber tires?
we're aiming for a comparable feel. We want to. It's going to be a non-pneumatic tire, but we want the pneumatic experience. So just like you're riding on air, just like any other tire, except for you don't have to worry about ever getting a flat or ever having to change your tires out. So the goal is to have one set of tires for the entire life of your vehicle. So that's something that's never been done before, to have something durable, long lasting, and still ride smooth like a pneumatic tire. Because there are airless options out there, but usually the ride is pretty poor, or it's a solid tire, it's rough, or too much vibration. So we're solving those particular pain points, and just totally changing the paradigm of tire performance. So yeah, the goal is definitely to have it very similar to what it is now for riding.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can I can add a quick anecdote, which is that the first bike prototype was one nitinol tire and one pneumatic tire. So the idea was to ride on a bike with one of ours and one conventional and not feel a major difference. So that's kind of the level we're at, is we've been able to pair it up with pneumatic and not have an obvious difference in feel.
Great, thanks. So aside from the ride comfort, what do these tires sound like when they're rolling in the pavement? Is there any difference in noise?
I don't believe there is. Like Brian said, we've done some experiments, and we've had it where it's one metal tire and one regular pneumatic tire, and the rider felt no difference at all. There was no additional sound or anything like that. So that is definitely a positive thing, to have something very comparable to what's already out there. So no, it's not going to be a loud clanking or anything crazy like that. So a very, very smooth ride, low noise.
Okay. They keep rolling in. What type of bike tires will be coming out first? Road bike, mountain bike, hybrids? What are you working on?
Great question. We're working on a couple of things. Um, can we reveal this yet? I don't know.
Leave it to you.
Well, the prototype that's already out there was done on a felt triathlon bike, and so it's sort of like a road bike. Obviously, using even though this is a lightweight metal, it wouldn't really work as well for the typical road bike for performances like racing and things like that. So we're looking more at like the in-between markets like mountain bikes, gravel bikes, adventure bikes, which depend more on that durability that, they get the terrain is rough. So we think that's probably our sweet spot for all of this. So, we're definitely picking a lane on what we're going to introduce first, but we're going to test on all different kinds of variations of it. So, yeah, it probably won't be a road bike first. No, we're probably looking more like that heavy duty out there in the woods or going over gravel type of thing.
Okay, and this might align with that. Then how does mud affect these tires? Do they get clogged?
Uh, no, again, this will be encased in a rubber-like material. It will not be a porous metal where debris can get inside. That is just for the show so people can see the actual skeleton of the Nitinol tire. So it will not be metal on the road or in the dirt. None of that. That would not make for a very good tire.
Okay, so let's switch gears just a little bit here. What level of technical expertise and knowledge did you have when you were first reaching out to work with NASA Technologies, and how did you go about your customer discovery for the technology?
Good question. The customer discovery part was part of the actual program. So we did a lot of calling, a lot of cold calling, a lot of cold emails to different verticals that we thought would be interested in a bike product or any type of product with this, whether it was automobile or aerospace. So we were just kind of narrowing it down to how people feel, how will it be received with a new type of product like this, and it just kind of went from there. Brian, anything you can add to that? So that's kind of been the story so far.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo that. I mean, we definitely, talked to tire segments we didn't even know existed going in, everything from agriculture to wheelchairs to, anything you can think of, we probably talked to them. So customer discovery was definitely a big part of it. As far as technical skills going in, as I mentioned, we've both been through a lot of early stage companies. My background is in computer science, and but I've also had some companies that were into manufacturing, things like that. So I think we both brought a lot of business experience, other technical experience. We aren't tire engineers, coming in the door, but that's kind of where we started from.
Yeah, and building a business, definitely this is a technological product, but we're not trying to outdo NASA as far as the engineering. Working directly with the inventors helps. So we have a technical background, but I think one of the main things to have is an entrepreneur background and business background to really have the vision to put this all together, to have the correct narrative on how you can bring this to market. So that I think that supersedes some of the technical experience we have, is the business background.
Great, thanks. We'll switch back over to the makeup of the tires. Are special rims or wheels required?
Wait, you broke up for me.
I'm sorry, are special rims required?
I can jump on that one. So the short answer is maybe. Retrofit is really useful to us in terms of go to market. So we've been focused on that for the most part so far. So I would say not required. In fact, the best product we make eventually will not use conventional rims. But wanting to put a bicycle tire in people's hands one of the best things we can do is build a really great product that's compatible. So, you can expect something compatible out of the gate, but, maybe imagine there's some real upside left beyond that.
Great, thanks. So one question, if these tires are encased with rubber, will retreading be needed from time to time from wearing on the rubber?
So I think the short answer is eventually yes. We're really trying to push the limits here. We certainly haven't invented forever rubber, but especially in the cycling market, there's a certain amount of mileage that if we can hit in all practical senses, you're never gonna. At least one person's not going to run through that tire. Ultimately, the intent, especially because of the clean tech angle here, is that when you do wear through your treads, eventually, that we would retread them, that we would essentially recover that skeleton and refurbish it with new treads.
Yeah. We haven't invented the forever rubber yet. We're working on it. We're hoping we can. We're working on some special things.
Okay, great. So next question, as a startup, what do you need most at this time to move forward?
I would say the number one answer for all startups, you can always use more funding. The more funding, the more we can do a lot faster. We're comfortable right now that we're funded in a pretty good spot, a nice runway. Just more strategic partnerships, just more information, more research we have to continue to do. It's a lot of work. This is a big year for us to just really just dig deep into how this is all going to work and how it'll come together, and what are the limits of the actual material, the cost. There's so much we have to do, so much.
Okay, great. There are a few questions in here about cost. What is the price point for the initial metal product? How does that compare to a regular tire? Where are you all headed with that? Would you care to comment on that?
We can't say too much about that right now. Again, we're not about to go to market, so we don't have that information yet to give out. The goal is to obviously, get the cost down to where it makes sense. Right now, we're almost there. So there's a lot of different formulations with the material to bring the cost down. There's mass production. I mean, there's so many different variables for this. So that's as much as I can speak on it right now. Ask me this question, next year, I'll have more data for you. But we're still testing right now. So I don't want to give you a price that's way off. And Brian,
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you guys one last question for today, and we'll close out with this. And just so everybody knows, if your question was not answered verbally, we will shoot those questions over to Brian and Earl and see if we can get some comments back to you. There were just so many good questions in the chat bar today from the presentation. So guys, just to close it out, what advice can you give other entrepreneurs who might want to start up a company around NASA technologies? Would you advise it, and what advice would you give?
I want to start off saying, if you do have other questions, you can always go to our website. There's a frequently asked question tab that a lot of these questions are very common that we address fully on our website. I would say, as an entrepreneur, if you want to do something like licensing NASA technology, don't think it's going to be easy. It's not that simple. Hey, let's just license this tech and start a company. No, it has to be something that makes sense, because a lot of the technologies, I'll say, we look, and through the program, there was about 10 different technologies, and we only felt one worked for what we were envisioning, and that was the tire. But there are all kinds of technologies out there that are specific for space or something very minor. It doesn't mean you can build a full business around it. But I would say, if you do want to go down the road, do the work, do the research, tons of research. Really know the product very well, know the market very well, inside and out. It's not an easy task. NASA has done a lot of the heavy lifting by actually inventing it and making sure it works. But to commercialize something is a whole other ball game to deal with. to find what works, and then you have to continue that development. So you really have to understand a lot of different things, and that takes a lot of research. Do your homework. Go to Google University, as we say, like Google everything possible. Watch all the videos. We did all of this. We watched everything publicly available about this, and talk to the inventors. Why did they come up with it? What were they thinking? All of these things help with actually putting your vision together to form an actual company and become a spinoff from NASA. And Brian, jump on that if you want.
I think you nailed it, Earl. I would echo all of that. Definitely, it's a lot of work. It's a great opportunity. Some of these technologies you absolutely couldn't find them anywhere else. But the opportunity is always commensurate with the difficulty. So it's been even better than we expected and even harder than we expected. So it's both. So it's been a great ride. I'd recommend it to those that want that kind of adventure and nobody else.
Yeah, it's been great, and NASA's been fantastic to work with so far. I gotta say, it's been great.
Well, thank you both so much, Brian and Earl. What a great presentation, and congrats again on moving your company forward. It looks like you've impressed the audience as well, as some are asking about your hiring plans. So I think we'll come work for you. So once again, we appreciate everybody taking the time to be with us today. Please join us for our next one next month. And thanks so much to our presenters for sharing about their experiences in their company. And that's going to conclude our webinar for today.
Great.
So,
Thank you so much. Yeah. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.